Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. PMDD partners, today we are going to be talking about dating and what makes a good PMDD partner if you are dating. I have gotten this question so many times, specifically on my TikTok, on my Instagram, where it's like, Dr. Rose, I'm not in a relationship now, but I want to be in a relationship and I want to know what to look for when I am dating. So yeah, I have something planned for the beginning of next year. I'm doing a collab that is really going to give a lot of tools for dating with PMDD. But right now, I'm going to just give you a little bit of preview on that, which is going to give you some actionable steps that is going to help you find a PMDD partner that you are compatible with. So that is the number one thing, is that you need to be with a PMDD partner that you're compatible with. It's the one of the strongest foundational things that you can do, because a lot of times what happens is we find out that we have PMDD and then we try to make our PMDD partner the compatible one versus starting in the beginning, because who you are compatible with in regards to being with PMDD, like being in PMDD, having PMDD, is different from when you're in your follicular days. So what I mean by that is you need to be with someone that is compatible with the PMDD you and also the follicular you. And a lot of times we get in a relationship based off of the follicular us, and then we go into PMDD and we spend the entire relationship fighting that other version of ourselves. We're saying, I'm trying to hide that version of me that has PMDD. I'm trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. And then my relationship will be good. But you need to find someone who you are compatible with in both versions of who you are for all of the phases of the month, whether it's ovulation, PMDD, your menstrual cycle, your good days. Because if you're only with someone that can handle you in your follicular days, you're going to suffer when you go into PMDD. And so compatibility is very key with PMDD. I need a bell because I keep saying every time I have an episode, I keep saying something that rhymes, where I need to like create a t-shirt. So you may look on these apps, which I'm looking at now. I'm like, oh, there's new ones like Plenty of Fish and Hinge and eHarmony and all of these apps where I think there's one where you swipe and stuff like that, where you're looking on there and it can look like you're a match on paper based off of the credentials, but they don't know about you and PMDD. Like they don't know what you're like when you have PMDD. So I almost think that there should be like a PMDD dating app to like qualify partners to be compatible with someone who has PMDD, because not everybody has the capability of being with someone who has PMDD, and that's okay. But it's just a matter of knowing. And I think it's that realization, because I've had so many private clients say, oh, that's not something that I can handle. And I'm like, I appreciate you saying that, because I would rather you say it than for you to let your PMDD partner down by trying to force yourself to do something that you're genuinely not capable of doing. So the first thing that I want you to do is to make a list. And so I want you to make a list about what is important for you when you're in PMDD. What does a supportive PMDD partner look like to you? Not on paper, not what you've seen on the movies, not what you've seen and anybody else, but like, what does a supportive PMDD partner look like for you, specifically when you're in PMDD? Because we can be a little bit flexible on our follicular days, but when it comes to PMDD, that's one of those things where we have to be very specific as to what it is that we need. So when you're making this list, I really want you to be specific off of what it is that you have been lacking in the past. So I always say the past is our greatest teacher, is our greatest lesson. I want you to really think about what was your relationships like in the past? If you've known that you've had PMDD and you felt like, oh, I just needed my PMDD partner to do this. Maybe you needed more attention. Maybe you needed more affection. Maybe you needed more validation. Maybe you needed more space. What is it that you were lacking? Because a lot of times when you're making these lists, it's very hard to think about what you do want, but it's very easy to remember because our brain always goes towards the negative. It's very easy for us to remember what we don't want or what we needed more of. So I want you to be very clear on that list and pretty much make it bullet point and say in a PMDD partner, if you can, construct it, you would have this, this, and this, this, and this. And the next thing I want you to do when you're going on dates, and I know there's always this like, oh, should I tell the partner or potential partner that I have PMDD? And my answer is always no. I always say wait until you're in a committed relationship. You don't want to, number one, scare them off in the beginning. So where they go home and Google what PMDD is and they don't even really like you, love you, all of those things. And they're going to be like, no, I'm not doing that. So I always say that when the time comes and there is an appropriate time, you can tell them about your PMDD. But because a lot of times when you're dating, you have the ability to take space. You have the ability to manage your symptoms because you're not as close, because you're not as intimate, where you're just getting to know them. So the symptoms are not going to come out that often. And if they do, the way you can explain it is to just really explain the trigger. So I always say, explain the trigger, not the PMDD in the beginning, meaning if it triggered you that they were communicating a lot, which would happen for me, where I was very triggered by the fact that my PMDD partner was, messaging me a lot when we were dating. And I was just like, it's too much, it's too overwhelming. And I just communicated to that, like, that's really overwhelming for me. And it wasn't a sense of like, I'm talking bad about him, but I just let him know that. So you are very free to talk to your potential PMDD partner about your triggers. But I wouldn't do the PMDD until you've decided to be in a monogamous relationship. And when you're having that conversation, then you can say, well, if we're going to be in a monogamous relationship, I just wanted you to know this about me. And then you can describe PMDD. And I know that that's something that you may really have issues with really understanding, which is why I created the course called My Partner Has PMDD, Now What? And in that course, it's pretty much a guide for the PMDD partner where they can understand what PMDD is, what PMDD is not, and how to date, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what helps, what doesn't help, all of the things. So if you haven't gotten that, make sure you go to the link. I'll put it in the show notes or go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com, and get that course because it's really going to help your partner to understand what to do when you're dating, because I know you always want to put your best foot forward. They're not trying to trigger you. You're not trying to be triggered by them. So this guide is going to just give them that kickstart on really dating you with the intention of making a good partnership as opposed to fighting against PMDD. And so the next thing that you can do in this process is just to support one another, right? So when you understand each other's values as you're dating, I want you to begin to support one another when you go into those challenges, where you're seeing the differences. Maybe it's the differences in lifestyle. Maybe it's the differences in the way that you do things, the way that you see things. I want you to begin to recognize the differences and then support them. in whatever it is that they're choosing to do, as long as it's not detrimental to you, as long as it's not something that you could never agree with. Instead of frowning upon them doing things differently, maybe, portray that you're understanding of it and ask them, okay, why do you do things this way? And then support them in being who they are as their most authentic self. Because when you're going into PMDD, you're going to want your PMDD partners to be able to be open with you. You're going to want to know them. You're not going to want to find out surprises during PMDD. That's like one of the things that is the most damaging, is to get surprises, right? So your partner starts acting different. Your mood is already shifting. Now their mood is shifting. It's better to just know what triggers them, what bothers them, and just allow them, keep that door open for them to be very authentic. And then on a practical level, when you're talking about, dating with PMDD, I want you to really think about spending some time together. I want you to always spend as much time as possible to get to know your PMDD partner, because they can say anything. But I want you to spend time with them when you're in PMDD. I know one of the things that you may think to do is to avoid your potential partner when you're in PMDD, but I want them to be able to experience you and to experience what that looks like and what it doesn't look like. Maybe this is a time where you're chilling a lot, you're being more relaxed. I want them to be able to see that side of you while you're still dating, before you get into that committed relationship, because I don't want them to assume that it's always going to be like that. A lot of times what happens is you put on this picture that you're follicular you all the time, and then you get into these relationships and they see that you have these down moments and these moments where you're not able to do as much, and you spend so much time trying to live up to that persona that you made them feel like you are, and then all of a sudden, it's a problem to maintain it. And then it's all of a sudden, when you start to be who you really are in PMDD, they think it's a problem. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't handle this. It's better to know that sooner rather than later, and just say, there's times before my cycle where I just take some time for myself, or there's times before my cycle where I need this extra attention. Whatever it is that you need, let them experience you in PMDD and see how they react. I want you to be on the realm of observing. I want you to be open. I want you to be communicative, but I want you to be open in a sense of you're openly observing what works for them, what doesn't work for them, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So, and the next thing I want you to do when we're talking about compatibility for PMDD partners is shared goals. I want you to find out what are some things that you can do together when you're in PMDD, right? Because you're going to need a supportive PMDD partner that you're able to do activities with. This is a perfect time for you to be able to think about things that you both enjoy and to be able to do them together. And it's going to take your mind off of the stresses of PMDD. So I want you to just think about, when you're spending time, what are those things that you can do that you have energy to do when you're in PMDD? Are you watching a show together? Are you watching a series? Are you going out and taking a walk? Are you listening to amazing music? I know for me, that was one of the things that connected me, was that we were able to just lay around and listen to music together. So I want you to really think about what it is that you're able to do to connect to your PMDD partner, or your potential PMDD partner when you're dating, because that's going to lead right into the dating phase, and you're going to lean on that. So these are the things that I want you to really think about when you're dating to be with a good PMDD partner, and you're deciding if they're a good PMDD partner. This is a very good foundation, a very good start. Like I said, get my course, My Partner Has PMDD, Now What? And then you'll be able to get additional tools for you finding out your perfect PMDD partner. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.